Hello, hello. How's everyone doing today? This is Michael Hatsis, and we're going to check out some sampling stuff. And today I wanted to check out one of the unsung heroes of sampling and Ableton Live in general, and that is the Granulator. So so let's just talk about the Granulator, just talk about what it is, where you can find it, all that fun stuff. So I'm using Live 11, but if you have Live 10, I even believe Ableton Live 9, you should be able to find the Granulator. And it's not native, right? It's a Max for Live patch. So for this, you're gonna need the Ableton Suite or Max for Live. All right, so what you want to do is you open the browser and then you go to packs, and you can see that I have it right here. I have a whole bunch of different really cool packs, but if you don't have it installed already, it should show up in this available packs, right? And again, I'm using Live 11, the beta. You could use Live 10. It should still show up there. All right, and then if it's not installed already, you just download it, and yeah, and then it'll just install automatically. I believe it'll then show up top here. All right, so I'll give you a minute, install that if you haven't already. And yeah, all right, cool. So let's jump on into it. So I'm just gonna toss in the Granulator, and then we'll talk a little bit about it, what it does, what it is, what it could be. And yeah, so you have M4L Granulator, and you know there's a few different things in here, and basically what we want is the Granulator 2. Okay, so I'm just gonna drop that on in there, and you can see the Granulator loads up, and it looks just like a live device, right? So what is the Granulator? What is granular synthesis? So anyone who's used Live somewhat should know about granular synthesis, or just, you know, what grains are, that sort of thing. All right, and the way I think about grains, like you have a sample, and then you have just different pieces of that sample called grains. Okay, you know, just remember, samples like a digital reinterpretation of an analog sound. Okay, so again, you have this digital reinterpretation of an analog sound, and then you have just these little pieces that are called grains that, you know, make up the different sample, right? You could think of it just like if you have a digital photo, right? You have pixels, things like that, right? So it's kind of like a pixel, a little bit different, but you know, grain doesn't have to be one pixel. It could be like, you know, just like a collection of like 15 pixels, that sort of thing. All right, but we're gonna get all into it, so don't worry about it. All right, so like I said earlier, if you've used Ableton a bit, you should be familiar with, you know, the concept of grains, that sort of thing. All right, so let's just look at two things you might have seen already. I'm just gonna load up some drums. There we go. I'll just go with this for now. Shout out to Tiny, killing it right now. All right, so yeah, so we look at this thing, right? We just got like a regular drum pattern here, nothing too fancy. And if we go down to the warp modes, you'll see we have these different types. Okay, and if we go to tones, you can see here we have grain size. All right, also if you go over to texture, you can see you have grain size and flux. Okay, and what these basically do is like, well, what is time stretching, right? Time stretching allows you to take a sample and play it back at a different tempo, okay, and preserve the pitch. Well, how does it do that? Well, it's just gonna take these tiny little pieces called grains, right, very small, and just kind of like loop them, all right, to make up for that extra space when we're stretching it out. Okay, so like for example, let me just multiply, or let me multiply this a lot, just so we can kind of hear well, let's just go back. So again, this is what it sounds like. Normal, sort of normal. All right. All right. Right, you could hear that as I pull up the grain size. You know, you could hear there's more just these little loops. Right, if I have a shorter grain size, right, you hear these shorter loops. All right, so again, what's happening here is that live is just making these tiny little loops and just kind of looping them back to make up for that extra space, right? If we go over to texture, we have the same control. We got the grain size, plus we got flux, which just adds a little randomness to the sound. Right, again. All right, so again, we could, you know, it's pretty obvious right there. So let me jump on over to, let's just set this drum loop up and check and see if there's anything on the chat. All right, cool. So I got this here. Now let's just find something else. I'll show you one more pretty cool little thing I'm sure y'all have seen in Ableton. So we got, oh, wow, this thing is loud. 1 second. There we go. Something like this will work. All right. So we also have the grain delay. All right. And this was, I remember back in the day, this was a big favorite. This thing's been here since Ableton 1. And I remember I just had so much fun because when I started doing this, I had no idea like what I was doing. I just loved music. And I remember just like sending through stuff here and moving this little XY pad all around. A lot of fun stuff. All right, brings back a lot of memories. Anyway, so yeah, anyway, let me load up a default, so, because I kind of messed it up a little bit. All right, so, well, what does the grain delay do? Well, the grain delay is just, it's a basic delay. And, right, so now I could do, what do I got? I got 8th note delay, right? Each one of these represents a 16th note. I got 2 16th notes, which is an 8th note. Let me add some feedback. Right, so we just have a basic delay at this point. Okay, so where does the grain come in? Well, what this delay also does is, right, it's, you know, basically what it's doing to delay is it puts, you know, whatever sound in a buffer and then delays it a little bit, right? And then if you have feedback, it's going to send it on back through the delay. So here, besides delaying the signal, we can also do different things like pitch shift, okay, and so on and so forth, all right? Because again, it'll break it into grains, and then we could manipulate those grains. So let's, let me just do one thing. I just want to kind of go in here, and just so I could make it so it's not as, let's make it so it's a little bit more percussive. All right, so let's just do this. And, oops. All right, so I'm just going into the clip envelopes. Here we go. All right, good enough. Cool, right? So again, just kind of made it a little bit more staccato. Cool. All right, so now let's go in there, right? So what I could do is I could pitch it up, right? I could take, you know, once it grabs those grains. Pitch it down. That's not actually that bad. All right, so yeah, so we could pitch it up, pitch it down. Okay, now frequency just is kind of like not kind of like, but frequency is the size of the grain, right? Just like when we had the warping, you know, we had the grain size. This is basically the size of the grain. So let's, You could hear they're a little bit shorter up here. A little bit wider down there. All right, then you could do other things. You could do spray. Sprays just kind of break up the grains. Kind of one of those things you don't want to go too hard with. You know, sometimes it'll sound good though. Who knows? All right, so yeah, so that's just a kind of like a quick overview of the grain delay, and you know, just trying to get you to understand what this whole grain thing is, right? Again, it's just a little piece of the sample. All right, so all right, cool. So let's move on. Let's actually jump into the granulator. And yeah, so well, what do we have here? Well, we know that, you know, grains are just little pieces of samples. Sorry about that. Let me just turn this off. All right, so we know grains are little pieces of samples, and what this thing does is basically a very fancy sampler, right? Which we all like fancy stuff. I like fancy stuff anyway. And so what this thing does is it takes a sample. We could throw anything in there. I can even throw this thing in there, right? And right at this point, oh, right at this point, let me load up a brand new one because I think I messed with it a little bit. And I think I might actually have to delete it. Yeah. Max for live, you know? Yeah, so I got to delete that. I'll bring this on in. And then I'm just going to toss in this same sample. Or attempt to toss in this same sample. There we go. And it kind of did the same thing. But that's fine. All right, so I just dragged in a sample. You can also record. There's a whole other thing. I'm not going to get into that. But if you want, I can get into it next time. You could just leave a comment or whatever. But yeah, you can just record your own stuff. You have this granulator other thing right here. And yeah, anyway, so cool. So we could look at the interface here. We could zoom in, zoom out, all that stuff, right? Very fun, very fun. Now, we have two views, okay? So we have the grain view that shows you all the different controls to kind of like manipulate the grains or the sample. And this view named filter is going to just show you different things like filters. We got some FM. We have, what else do we have? Volume envelope, amp envelope, whatever. Filter envelope, different types of filters, all that fun stuff that hopefully you are familiar with. If you dig into synthesis, sampling, any of that kind of stuff at all. Okay, and again, here we have the different controls for the grain. Okay, and you could see here, right? So let's start getting into these. So here we have, actually, you could just drag this little translucent area across. Okay, and you could just set up. Let me just lower. All right, so yeah, you can move that around. Let me actually back up a little bit. Let's talk about, you know, what, you know, where this thing came from, and you know, just you know, what you should expect from this thing. Okay, so Granular Synths came out, you know, we're kind of the earliest sampler kind of synths, or one of the earlier kinds of synth sampler synths. And the idea is like now we have stuff like Contact, ESX, which, you know, you could just load up a hard drive of samples onto them and play them back. All right. Back in the day, RAM, memory, all that stuff was a little bit more expensive. So you kind of had to make the most you could with, you know, as little as you could, or with a little bit, right? So, you know, people started manipulating samplers and coming up with different ways of utilizing them. And then, bam, you have something like a granular synth. Okay. Now, this thing is way more capable. You're going to get, you know, a lot of really interesting sounds out of this thing, as opposed to you know, just a straight up sampler, depending on what it is. Okay, but this thing's real fun. It's all about manipulation, and what it really shines at, I think, is just getting some sounds with like really kind of more interesting textures. All right, so I always think of that, like when I want something a little bit different. I use this thing a lot. I love this thing. I just love samplers. If you want something with a little bit more of a kind of like, you know, unknown texture, right? Something that, you know, you load up a sawtooth wave, you know what it's going to sound like, right? You load up Serum, okay, great. There's like, you know, you can load your own wavetables, sample, whatever you want in there, but it's going to sound like Serum, all right? This thing, it's a little bit more unpredictable, okay? And that's one of my favorite things about it. And again, you're dealing with samples. Samples are awesome, right? So yeah. Now, you know, a lot of people they'll make like a lot of like pads, textures, that sort of thing. Okay, I'm not really a big pad person these days. I respect them. It's not my thing right now. Textures as well. You can make some real interesting textures, but again, you could do a lot more with this. You can make anything you want. I make like leads, melody, melodic sounds, you know, drums, percussive sounds, whatever, what have you. All right, cool. So that's a little bit on the Granulator. Let me see if there's any questions. Nah, we got nothing. All right, so let's dive in. Okay, so yeah, what we want to do here is just take a grain. Okay, this kind of defines the size of the grain. Okay, and we want to just kind of, right, it's gonna loop automatically. Let me zoom in. Right, and you could hear at this point, it you know, you could hear it kind of looping this and that, and that's fine. What I'm going to do here is just quick go over to the filter section, and I'm going to lower the release. You got to love this thing. It's got 180-second release time. All right, beautiful stuff. Beautiful. All right, didn't change anything else. Just, you know, it's playing a little bit too long for my money. Cool. All right. Now, so again, this is, you know, the size of the grain. Okay, and then this is where in the file you have the grain. Okay, what works really nicely for granular synthesis in general is something that kind of changes throughout the course of the sample, right? Because again, what we want to do is later we're going to kind of just walk through the sample, right? We hit a key, it's going to kind of move through the sample back and forth. So if you have something a little bit more interesting with a lot of tonal variations, well, it's gonna sound a little bit more interesting, a little bit cooler. All right, so let's see what we got here. All right, cool. So we also have the scan control. Okay, so moving over, we have the scan control. We're gonna jump back. All these different things you can mess with, or you could have control with an LFO, that sort of thing. We'll get there, but just want to go over the basics for now. All right, so we have the scan control. All right, what the scan control does is it allows you to scan through the sample. All right. So it allows you to scan through the sample. And this is just the time, how long you want it to take to scan through. Okay, so yeah, so we got that. Now with this and the grain size, you know, we could kind of, these two kind of work together to determine right, right? So I have a long time and a really small size, and what that does is kind of, you know, scan through and make it sound like you're not. Right? Not bad already. All right, we also have a curve. Curve's going to determine, you know, is it going to be like a linear scan, right? Is it going to slide through linearly? It's going to be a little bit more logarithmic, that sort of thing, right? Curves. One thing I know, people like curves, you know, so I always add a little curve too. All right. All right, so what I'm going to do, you know, going to keep this first example simple, and I'm going to kind of just set up something I like. I'm just going to tweak a few of these things, come up with something I like, and then, you know, we'll go from there. All right, cool. So we got something like that. And what I want to do now is I want to see if I could tune this, okay? Because I don't really know what it is. I'm going to assume that it's an A minor, right? Like when I hit a C, I'm going to assume it's A minor because the sample's A minor. But let's get a little bit more scientific about this whole thing. So let's, I'm sorry, A flat minor. I can't even read today. Well, yeah, I mean, you know, it's around there. It's around there. So let's go tighten this up a little bit. All right, so we go hit to the filter section. You know, obviously, that's where you're going to find the pitch and fine tuning. All right, so again, we're in A flat. What I want to do is I want to set this up so if I hit a C, let me just see if I am. Oh, that's not good. Yeah, I had the push here. I had it in like a G minor or something. Sorry about that. All right, so again, now I'm hitting a C, a proper C. And it looks to me a little C sharp, so I'm going to tune this down a little bit. And, you know, I'm just kind of, usually I just use my ear for this stuff, but, you know, trying to be more proper on the stream. Let me actually. Yeah, it's kind of, you know, it's not the easiest thing. But anyway, you know, you would, on a different sample, which we'll see later, you know, you just kind of manipulate or mess with the pitch, fine tuning, right? So this is steps between the semitones, right? So anyway, let's go back here. I kind of like something. All right, so I kind of like this one. Okay, whatever key it's in, I'm kind of happy with it. So yeah, so what I want to do is I'm just gonna record this. Okay, so you know it's pretty basic. Let me see where I'm at in terms of. So got a little recording in there, and wow, you know, you can see here I am not even close to being on, but you know, winter time, not that big of a deal when we have quantizing. Let's just hear how it sounds. All right, so you can hear we're not even really close. What I'm going to do here, to being in time, that is. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to do the old quick resample. And a little of this, right? So I'm grabbing audio from Granulator and turn that off, turn that on. All right, cool. So let's just turn that off. And again, the reason I'm recording this, or I'm sorry, the reason I resampled it is because I want to kind of get it so it's sort of in time. All right. And, you know, we have this lovely warping. All right, so just setting up some warp markers. Just kind of want to get this over a little bit. Let's see. Oh. Actually sounded better. Something like that works. Now I just got to do this part here. Cool, good enough, right? So let's just name this thing, and this is gonna be what is this thing? This is, I think it's an Udo. Let's see. Nope, Guzang. Close, right? Anyway, all right, cool. So we got a little something going, a little something cooking. Let's actually speed it up now. I liked it a little faster. Right now, again, I would spend a little bit more time getting the timing right, but you know, I want to kind of keep it moving for y'all. Little bit of that grain delay going on in there. Cool. All right, and let's just get rid of that low in there. All right, cool. All right, so we got a little something going. All right, now, so I got these here. What was this? I think that's the original, so let's just get rid of that. And so yeah, so let's make something else. All right, let's make another kind of sound here with the Granulator. All right, so you know what? I'm kind of not feeling this here grain delay actually. Cool. And yeah, I think we're rocking. All right, cool. So let's go back up here and find something else. Right? Another way you could do this is I could just do, like, to find out the key, right? I could just do convert melody to new Midi track. which, yeah, let's go with that. All right, so this is back when I was trying to tune it. Now, this one, which is going to be very loud. So let's see. It's saying it's in C. Sounds, again, I have, you know, I don't know much about perfect pitch, all that stuff, you know, having good pitch. You know. Yeah, it works for me. So again, we'll go with C, okay? So, you know, again, now we can have a lot of fun with this thing, right? Now that we have the notes, right? It's just all about taking little, you know, getting ideas from another idea. So, yeah, Granulator, all right? So let's grab another Granulator and, oh. All right, rocking on. So, just give me 1 second. I got this. Sorry about that. The phone just kept going. So yeah, we got a question up here. Yeah, so I just resampled it just to time it. Okay. Again, it was a little bit loose, right? Because again, there's not really warping in the granulator. You know, you could kind of warp it a little bit, right? But I just resampled it just to kind of get it in time. And then also that last note, the right? That's going to slow down because you're going down in pitch. So yeah, the only reason I did it is to, you know, get the thing in time. If I need, I could always go back, you know, and extract more from it, right? Like for instance, you know, probably a good idea at this point would be to, let's try doing a little of an octave. You know, we can always get back. All right, so, and then let's just take this MIDI, throw it over there. I'll get rid of this thing. And new Granulator. All right, so let's find something else. I'm just using these, like, these splice samples. Again, I'm just looking for something with you know when you hear it kind of thing. And the more you do this, the more familiar you get with what would work in something like this. So I think I have like melodies in here somewhere. It's been a while. World melodies, perk, guitar, presets, stabs, risers, synthly. All right, we'll just go with this thing. Right, I want to look for something not as percussive, okay? Because again, I got my percussive stuff in there. I want to look for something a little bit smoother, just because I know when I scan through with the granulator, it'll have a bit more of a smooth sound to it. Right, like something like this could be cool. Let me save that for later. Yeah, I got a weird sample collection here. You know what? Let me just make a bass line actually. I want to get like this thing's real fun for like bass samples. Let's see. I know I have 808s. Right? It is a little bit. It's a little bit much, but all right, let's just try something like this real quick. real quick. I don't think it's gonna. All right, so let's. All right, so I got the grain. Yeah, it's a little bit too rough for me, but you know, sorry about that. So where are we going? Where are we going? Where are we going? Just looking for this. Here we go. There was something I just. Yeah, let's try this thing. All right. So again, it's not that interesting of a sample, but let's see what we can do. All right. So yeah, you could see here. Like I said, I wanted to do like a bass. All right, let's work it up. Yeah. Let's go back here. Let's lower the release a bit. All right. It's kind of a cool riser. So let me go in there with the tuner. Right, so this one's a little bit easier. You can see here it's giving me an F. Again, when I hit C, I want to see a C. So I'm just going to go here. I think it's like 5. Oops. Right. And you can see I'm a little bit sharp. So let's just bring it. Enough. Okay, cool. So now we got this thing in tune, and let's go back here. Okay, so let's go to the grain section, and we kind of went over the scan, the spray, just the grain, all that fun stuff. All right, now, you know, obviously, you know, it gets a whole lot more fun once we start getting some modulators in there, right? So we have this LFO right here, kind of a primitive LFO. You can't even sync it. Actually, you can sync it. Wait a second. No, I don't even think you can sync the thing. All right, I'm just gonna set up retrigger. Okay, and right, so every time I hit a key, it's gonna restart the LFO cycle. Okay, and all right. So now, well, what could you change with the LFO? Well, if you go down here, you can see all these different controls that say LFO. All right, and then you just put in an amount, and that will, you know, be controlled by the LFO. Okay, so right, so you can see here I have it, the LFO kind of jumping or changing this, right? So it's just kind of jumping around the file, right? It's changing the file position. Right, that's not really, I don't really want to wobble, maybe a little bit. So right, why don't we also have the LFO change the grain position? I'm sorry, grain size. And I'm just gonna move this a tiny bit. Right, so there's like a little bit quicker of an attack. Let's see what we got here. So yeah, something like that. Let's go on over to the other section. All right. So, you know, you can see here as far as modulators go, right? We had the LFO. You also have key tracking, right? That's always fun as well, especially if you're into more unpredictable stuff, right? So, you know, different keys or I'm sorry, higher up or lower on the keyboard is going to change, you know, these different controls. All right. And velocity, we got some velocity control, so you could kind of change the scan, you know, the harder you hit the key, that sort of thing. Okay, we have AM here. AM, we got FM, so why even bother with AM is my thing. Cool, so let's jump on over here. And right, we got like this very nice, you know, to some people, rich harmonic sound, right? A little bit too much. So we can always go here with the filter. Right? I could just use this low pass. We got a few different varieties. I'm sorry, we only have one variety of low pass filter. And, you know, you get two different filters. And here you have your filter FM envelope. Okay, so, you know, I could have, you know, the filter cutoff change. All right, just going to set this to 100 for now, and then the filter will be controlled. I'm sorry, the filter cutoff will be controlled by this here filter FM envelope. So now you can kind of hear it gets a little bit brighter as time goes on, but it gets a little bit too bright. So I'm just kind of playing with the envelope amount, or I'm lowering it so it doesn't affect the filter cutoff as much. Cool. All right, I'm kind of happy with that. And like I said, we got FM to kind of time. All right. So FM, if you've ever used operator, FM8, that sort of thing. All right. Basically, FM, I'm not going to get into the whole thing, but really what you're going to do is add some upper harmonics to the sound, okay? A lot of times it's going to give it more of a metallic sound, all right? And here's our FM amount. Right, here's the frequency of, you know, that metallic. Now again, if you use something like operator FM8, you know, you can't set it so it is, well, you can, but it's not as straightforward. Like if you look at operator, or BERT, if you look at, no, that's not good. If you look at operator, if we can, there we go. Right, if you look at operator, you have your coarse, fine. I believe on FM8 it's called ratio. It's like a ratio thing, right? So we don't have that. So again, these things make it easy. FM is kind of gets very unpredictable very quickly. So, you know, you have these nice harmonic steps here, which kind of, you know, help out with making it so it's not as like ridiculous, or get carried away very quickly. Okay, here you don't really have that. Okay, it's kind of just you put in a number. Again, it's key tracking, so it's going to kind of change with the number. Right now, you know, there built in, there's no LFO. You got the envelope though. All right, or right, you know, with Max for Live, you know, you have this here extra envelope. If we could get it to load up, right? So I could just go here, map that, and right, say if I wanted to do something like this. Anyway, I think we're getting carried away at this point, but you know, so much cool stuff going on in live right now, especially with Live 11. So let's try to get something in there. All right, and let's see. I'm just gonna take these notes because, yeah, why not? And so it's just a C, D, G sharp, G. All right, whatever. I'll just kind of draw something in. Oh. Let's get rid of this F. I thought it. Hang out a sec. Got a lot of stuff going on here. Turn this one off. Aha. This up an octave. Yeah, I don't know. Definitely, you know, it sounds like an upright bass, but yeah. Just to keep it simple. All right, cool. So something like that. I'm gonna add some effects to it. Is there any questions at this point that anyone has? Let me just go check out. All right, very cool, very cool. Keep it moving, keep it moving. You know what, maybe I'll add a little release here. Alright, so what I want to do here is I want to add a little bit of oomph to it. It's definitely lacking some oomph. I'm going to try to keep it all Ableton, so I'm just going to go with the old saturator, the old trusty saturator. And yeah, I'm just going to turn on the medium. How do you want it? I'll take it medium. Now the other thing is there's a bunch of stereo going on here. So I want to get rid of that, at least in the low end. So I'm just going to drag this in here and let's see how it just sounds in mono. I kind of dig that, right? If I just take one side. It sounds like it's got a little bit more oomph if I just take the right. Okay, and now we're in mono with the bass, so that's cool. I kind of usually like to keep my basses mono, even if I'm making a more aggressive bass. All right, you don't have to. Obviously, you want the sub to be mono, but you know, if you have higher end stuff, you know, like a growl bass or like wobbles or like electro bass or something like that, you know, a lot of times you'll have the higher part of the bass stereo. Me, a lot of times, you know, I'll just like to keep the whole thing mono, and then, you know, I like to fill in the stereo field with other things. All right, for me, it just kind of helps separate the bass. And yeah, so now, so I got the saturator. Saturator is beautiful because you just pick soft, medium, or hard. Right, I kind of like medium. I'm gonna add a little drive to it, right? So it's just a little bit. And I want to get like some EQ in here. Kind of just killing the whole. A little bit better. So yeah, I just kind of EQ'd the heck out of it. Maybe I'll even switch these around. So, right, so I'm cutting off the highs. Well, basically everything above like, you know, 150, 200-ish. And I could always add a little harmonics back with the saturator if I put it after it. Or I could do double saturators. No, that doesn't. So yeah, so this one, adding harmon, I don't really need this. I'm just getting a little carried away here, just getting excited. All right, cool. So what do we got? We got about 5 minutes left or so. So yeah, let me just do a little recap. Honestly, play around with this thing. It's super fun. Best thing of all is, again, it's a sampler, right? So you could just, you know, you come up with something, and right, like, you know, we got this very basic bass line. Now we got a piano. No, but you know what we could do here is we could just toss. Well, we can even just. toss another. Yeah, but look, we could just throw another sample in there and have a completely different thing, right? So let's see. Let me find something else. Yeah, I got to know these samples, but I don't usually use the splice. The splice. Did I just say that? Yeah, I don't really use these splice samples that much unless I'm doing, you know, commercial work or whatever. But they definitely come in handy for that. So let's see. Wow. Not very cool. Yeah, that doesn't. Let's find something. There we go. Alright, I'm gonna ease up on the. Take the sustain down a little bit. Bring up the volume. Play with the filter a little bit. All right, so again, pretty fun stuff here. Now, right, spray is kind of the same from the grain delay that we looked at. Just kind of spreads the grains around. Cool for some stereo stuff. All right. But yeah, so that's a little overview of the Granulator. Okay, remember, you can have a lot of fun with this thing. All right, just get in there, experiment, and again, just throw whatever you want in there, and you know, you can make some pretty cool stuff. All right, way cool than what I got going on here. All right, so yeah, thank you for tuning in. And I will be back next week. Same time, same channel. And hope to see y'all there. In the meantime, you could check out the other streams. I believe we got stuff going on every day. All right. And all quality content. All quality content. And yeah. So anyway, hope y'all have a good one. Take care.